Welcome back to the channel. Uh, just a quick reminder, this is the channel that I made for the new pipe fitters and the new pipe details out there. And I want us to get together with myself and the other veterans of the piping industry so we can learn and understand the skills needed to install the piping out there. What I like to do is start off with the course and then I follow up with the demonstration afterwards. In today's topic, what I want to cover is the trig functions and a little bit of rolling offsets. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you my version of how the cosine, sine, and tangent work. These are important formulas, especially when we use the triangle math on right triangles. When we do our field measuring, our pipe fitting, or pipe detailing, you'll see this come up very often. And to start, before we had the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If we knew any of the two sides of a right triangle, we could always solve for the third one. For a triangle, a right triangle, has the three sides ABC and has an angle with a 90 degree. So what we did, what if you don't have two sides? Well, if we only have one side, but you know the angle. So what these are functions of a ratio of a triangle. So the cosine of the angle, this angle here, is equal to adjacent over c. So it's just a ratio of this side divided by that side. It's just a ratio. The sine is the other side of the triangle here. And the tangent is b over a. So now if we know any of these two information, we can always find out the third one. Now what they call these, they started naming the sides of the triangle to help people remember. They call this the adjacent side of the angle. We call this the opposite side of the angle, opposite side of the triangle. Then we call a long part the hypotenuse of a triangle. So this is another way to write out the formula here. So they don't, when you use these, they don't really go A, B, they do adjacent and hypotenuse. That's the terminology when you talk about the cosine. So they don't reference these no more. Now it's adjacent over hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse, opposite over the adjacent. These are your new formulas that you could use to figure out the triangles. So let's go ahead and try it out. Let's go, this is a 60 degree on a 90. Let's just say the hypotenuse is 2. We need to find out what the x is, we need to find out what the y is. How do we do it? Well, the x is the adjacent side. Which one do we have adjacent? We have adjacent here. And then the opposite side, which one has the opposite? We don't know the opposite. Okay. but we do know the angle. So we know 2 of the 3. So the angle is 60 and the hypotenuse 2. So to figure out this adjacent side, you use this formula. So the cosine of 60 is equal to the adjacent over 2. So the adjacent side is 2 cosine 60. What if we want to find out y? Y is the same thing as opposite over 2. So the opposite is 2 sine of 60. Now, when you do these calculations, now you can't use a basic calculator no more. You gotta start using a scientific calculator. So you go 2 times cosine 60 equal to 1. 2 sine 60, 1.7321. So this is 1.732, oops, sorry. And this side is 1. So that's how you use that. And when you're trying to find out either the opposite or the adjacent, but you don't have the hypotenuse. You see how the hypotenuse is in here. So you can't use, so let's say we didn't know the hypotenuse. And we're trying to find out what y is equal to. And we know the adjacent side is 1. So what we do is tangent 60 over opposite over 1. So the opposite is just tangent over 60. Which is tangent 60. So that's how I use the 3 functions of that. So remember, it's just the ratio of the angles in relationship to the side. Also, we can do reverse engineering on this. Let's say we're trying to find out the angle. We don't know the angle. You see how the angle is in all this. We don't know what the angle is. Okay. What we're going to do now is use these formulas to figure out the angle. So you see the angle is in every one of these formulas. But what if we don't know the angle? But we do know the 2 sides. So let's just create a triangle here. Let's go call this 2, call this 1. What is that angle? What's that angle from the 1 to 2 ratio? Well, we know the adjacent side is this, and we know the hypotenuse. So adjacent to the hypotenuse is this one. So that means we got to use this formula to figure out the angle. That's what that is. Now, whenever you do algebra, you got to, whatever you do here, you got to do on that side. So like when you multiply, you divide. When you want to add, you subtract, they're opposite functions. So what we're going to do here, they call this the anti-cosine. You'll see a sign like that. So if you look at your scientific calculator, you see the cosine button. You'll also see a symbol, a button that looks like that. So when you take this cosine, which the anti-cosine cosine, this cancels out that cosine. So you just end up with that's what you end up with. And all you gotta do is go ahead and type that in your calculator. Antitangent 1 divided by 2. You end up with the angle is at 60 degrees. So now we know at a 60 degree, the ratio of the adjacent side of the hypotenuse is the 1 to 2 ratio at a 60 degree open. Let's do another one. Let's say we didn't know this angle. We can call it that's the length of it. That's the length. We want to figure out the angle from that. So this is opposite in this, adjacent in this. So this is the formula that we want to use to figure out that angle. So tangent equals radical 3 over 1. So the angle is tangent opposite radical 3. So the angle is 60 degrees. So that's how you use the cosine, sine, and tangent. It just gives you another way. Instead of the 3 sides, you have the angle, and you need a 2 to the side. So instead of the side, we have the angle that we're using. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions or want me to explain it in a different way, let me know and I'll be happy to go over it. All right, thank you. Okay, that was the course. I hope you liked it and understood it. If you have any questions, go to leave a comment below. I'll be happy to get back to you. What I need you to do is go ahead and push on like on the video. This helps my videos get more out open there, so I can get more feedback from more people. So hitting the like button is important. Thank you for your time watching.